Welcome to the Show Day Podcast. Today is Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. Last night we had shows in Idaho, Minnesota, Georgia, and Iowa. Tonight we have shows, one again in Iowa and another in Utah. So really a wide variety of states that the ENCOREs are touring currently. Lots of cores in a lot of different spots. So I'll get to that today, plus more on today's Show Day podcast. So first show, Drums Along the Rockies Boise edition, Eagle, Idaho, in the Boise area. Two open class cores here. Once again, you've got the battalion and you have the Colombians. General effect, the battalion win by 4/10. Again, not a lot to talk about there. Same in visual, by even a bigger margin, 17-9 to a 16-5 for the Colombian, or for the battalion to the Colombians. So really, these two, in general effect and visual, are not very close. The battalion are a mile ahead of the Colombians. When we look at music, that's where the Colombians do gain a little bit back, but they still don't win music. Brass, only 2/10 back. Analysis, they're actually ahead by 5/10, but in percussion, they're down by 5/10, so those two pretty much cancel each other out. 16-9 for the battalion, a 16-8 for the Colombians in music. Overall totals 57-7, 55-5 for the Colombians. So when we look at how they're doing right now compared to really previous seasons, or I should say last year, the battalion, they were at a 58-8 on this date last year. They're at a 57-7 right now. When we look at the Colombians, they were at a 57 even. Right now they're at a 55-5. So really, it's not that the two are better than last year. I think that just the battalion are farther away from the Colombians, and really you can see that on those scores. It just seems like they're better against the Colombians than they were last season at this time. Heading over to the world class side of things at this event, Drums Along the Rockies, the first of 2 or 3 shows in this series. You've got general effect on the world class side really going as they finish. The big thing to look for as I go through the recap is Pacific Crest and the Troopers, and they end up tying. I'll just say that now. But keep in mind the margins between the two in different captions, especially these two, because music is all Troopers. These two captions, really, we've been seeing Pacific Crest do better in, but now Troopers have kind of made up a little bit of the ground. So, general effect, 34-5 for the Blue Devils, 31-7 for the Blue Knights, a 27-9 for Pacific Crest, and a 27-6 for the Troopers, 3/10 separating them. Genesis at 25-5 and Seattle Cascades 23-9. When we look at visual, you have to go over to analysis and color guard, because when you look at proficiency, they all go in order. When we look at those other two, there is stuff happening between Pacific Crest down to Seattle Cascades. Pacific Crest and Troopers, you've got the Troopers ahead in both of those subcaptions, a 13-9 to a 13-7 in analysis, a 14-9 to a 14-7 in color guard. So overall visual at this event, differing from the night before where Pacific Crest really owned visual, the Troopers now make up some ground, and they're a 10th ahead of Pacific Crest in visual. When we look at the bottom two, you've got Seattle Cascades ahead of Genesis in color guard, but it's only by a 10th. Doesn't do anything to the overall totals. A 18 even for Genesis and a 17-5 for Seattle Cascades. The other big thing to look at here is the Blue Devils, because in 85, they put up an 80 score in the 85s at this show. Highest score of the season, second highest score put up overall so far, next to the Bluecoat score last night. So really, they're right where they need to be. They're at a 25-9 out of 30 in visual. They're at a 34-5 out of 40 in general effects. So really, the Blue Devils are where pretty much they always are. Going over to music now, as I said, the Troopers are not necessarily a whole lot better than Pacific Crest in music, but they're definitely better off than they were in visual. Brass troopers are ahead by 2/10. Analysis, they're actually down by 1/10. Pacific Crest wins that. And then percussion is all troopers by 3/10. So it's 1/10 in visual, troopers over Pacific Crest. It's 2/10 in music, but Pacific Crest's 3/10 advantage in general effects really what keeps them in it last night. The tie overall as 70.1. Moving down to the bottom two, I want to just look at them real quick. Big thing is percussion. Genesis struggling in percussion right now. Seattle Cascades are 7/10 ahead right now. So it's not enough for Cascades to get music over Genesis, but still they narrow that gap a lot to 3/10 totals. 63.05 to a 60.65 for Genesis, or for Seattle Cascades. Looking at those top two, then again, real quick, Blue Devils 85.45, right where they want to be. Music is not necessarily their weak point, but I think they're going to be below some others there. We see that same thing happening with them and the Blue Knights in music, where Blue Knights get pretty close there, and then the Blue Knights in second at a 78.45. Second show, the Thunder of Drums in Mankato, Minnesota. Open class results, only one core in attendance. River City Rhythm, 23.3 in general effect, is 17.3 in visual, and 18 even in music. That all comes out to be a final score of 58.6. That score is much better than they have been. One of the cores that is gaining consistently this year. Last season on this date, they were at 55.7. Now they're at a 58.6. So definitely River City Rhythm has made positive changes in the offseason. Now they're going in the right direction this season. Taking a look at the world-class side of things at the Thunder of Drums. So general effect, all Bluecoats 34.8, Blue Stars 31.4. Those two are really in a league of their own at this show. They're not close. There's about 7 points separating the two, but compared to everybody else, they are ahead. Going down to third place, the Colts at a 28.7, the Academy then in fourth at a 28.3, Madison in fifth at a 27.7. Colts and Academy, that margin's closed, not necessarily from Sunday, but definitely from last Friday. It was not looking good after last Friday for the Academy, but the Academy have kind of come back against the Colts, and now they're doing better now, and Madison's still kind of struggling down there in fifth, though. Going over to visual proficiency, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's really how everything goes in visual. It's really just the margins between those last three that I want to look at here. Colts a 10th ahead in visual proficiency, and Madison's really far back. I'm not sure I can even include them in that conversation. Going over to visual analysis, 3/10 back for the Academy, and then in color guard, you've got 3/10 again. So not necessarily close, but close enough, I think, for the Academy, and maybe make a move on the Colts later in the season. 21.9 for the Colts in visual. The Academy at 21.55. Madison's really back there, a 20.65. Up to the top, Bluecoats at 25.4 in visual, and the Blue Stars at 24 even in visual. Looking at music, brass, you've got Madison actually ahead of the Academy. That's the only placement difference from how they finish. You've got Madison at 14.3, Academy at a 14.2, Bluecoats at a 17 even out of 20 in brass. Analysis, you've got Bluecoats, Blue Stars, and then Academy goes ahead of the Colts by 3/10. Colts at 14.2, and then Madison down at 13.7. Percussion, as we've been seeing, the Academy struggling a little bit. Madison's ahead by 3/10 there over them, and the Colts kind of separate themselves and actually are pretty close to the Blue Stars in percussion. Looking at overall music scores, 25.5 for the Bluecoats, 23.55 for the Blue Stars, and then 22.05 for the Colts. Those three are really ahead of those bottom two. Academy at 21.55, and they just edge out Madison for fourth, as Madison's at a 21.35. Overall totals, 85.7 for the Bluecoats, 78.95 for the Blue Stars, 72.65 for the Colts, 71-4 for the Academy, and 69-7 for the Madison Scouts. Third show, DCI Morningside in Sioux City, Iowa. There was a partial panel at this show. No visual proficiency judge, no color guard judge, and no music percussion judge, but the other 5 judges were there. And only open class score there was the Cole Cadets. They finish out with a 52.1. Not sure where exactly they are, because when you look at them against other open class finalist contenders. You've got 14 open class scores going to championships, and only 12 make it. Are the Cole Cadets on the positive side, or are they on the negative side? It sure looks like they're on the positive side against maybe, say, the Raiders or Heatwave, or the Lake Centaurs still have to perform, or Shadow. I think Shadow will be in pretty comfortably this year. But still, you've got a bunch of groups that are contending for that spot. Are the Cole Cadets on the positive side? I want to say yes, but I'm not really sure right now. World class here at in Sioux City, Iowa. You've got the Cadets on top in general effect with those 2 judges, a 31-8 to the Crossmen's 31-1. And then the Mandarins back in third at a 30.4. The big thing I wanted to see at this one was how close or how far up could the Mandarins get against these 2 cores, and the answer is they didn't get very close. And just a few weeks ago, we were saying, oh, the Mandarins are looking like they'll be 9th, 8th, 7th, and they've kind of lost that in everybody a little bit. I think now we're kind of having the conversation of, can they beat Phantom? Can they beat, let's say, the Blue Stars? They still haven't gone against them, but the Crossmen are behind the Blue Stars, and for the Mandarins to be 1.7 behind the Crossmen, that's not looking very good. So really, it's just that the Mandarins, I think, kind of hit where they were going to be, how high they were going to be in those first few shows on the West Coast, like margins compared to others. But now it just seems like they've fallen off quite a bit of where they need to be. Going over to visual, only one visual judge here. Can't judge a lot off of that, and this is why I don't like partial panels, because you can't really see exactly how they line up against each other and everything. And this is really a good 3-core battle. Cadets are a little bit ahead of the Crossmen, but it's actually a smaller margin between the Cadets and Crossmen than it is between the Crossmen and Mandarins. Visual of 15-7 for Crossmen, a 15-3 for the Cadets, and a 15 even for the Mandarins. So not a whole lot there. Music, you've got brass and analysis. Brass, 3/10 ahead for the Cadets, 15-9 to 15-6, and then a 15-4 for the Mandarins. And then analysis is 16 even for the Cadets, a 15-3 for the Crossmen, and a 15-2 for the Mandarins. Overall music scores 31.9 for the Cadets, 30.9 for the Crossmen, and 30.6 for the Mandarins. Another thing here with the partial panel, no percussion judge. That's the Cadets' strongest thing, that's the Crossmen's weakest thing. So just another thing to point out. Overall total, 79 even for the Cadets, 77-7 for the Crossmen, and the Mandarins at a 76 even. Final show last evening was Drums Across America Atlanta edition, right outside of Atlanta. So, open class, same 3 cores from the night before. We do have a switch, though, at the top. You've got Louisiana Stars and Southwind switching spots. How does that happen? Well, general effect, a 25 even for Louisiana Stars, a 24-9 for Southwind. Going over to visual proficient, or really everything here. Let's just keep it at that. Southwind wins. Looking at overall visual, that score, though, isn't a lot ahead for Southwind. It's just 2/10, 17-2-5 to a 17-05 for Louisiana Stars. And then if you go down to third, it's Heatwave at a 14-8. So what's the big thing here is that Southwind's actually a 10th ahead after visual. How do the Louisiana Stars win, though? Music. Same thing we saw the night before. Music, stronger for the Louisiana Stars. Brass, they're 10th ahead. Analysis, they're 4/10 ahead. And percussion, they're 4/10 ahead. So that all contributes to a pretty big music advantage for the Louisiana Stars, 4.5 tenths 17.85 for the Louisiana Stars, 17.4 for Southwind, and a 15.25 for Heatwave. Overall score 59.9 for Louisiana Stars, 59.55 for Southwind, and a 50.65 for Heatwave. So Louisiana Stars win second head-to-head meeting with them in Southwind of the season. One more thing I want to point out here, and that is where were these cores last season at this time? Something I like doing with these open class cores, because really there's not a ton of head-to-head competition between them all, but but you can compare them to how they were last year. Louisiana Stars last season today was at a 56.55. Now this year we're at a 59.9. Last season Southwind 54.85. They're now at a 59.55. So really, Southwind has done really positive things, and Louisiana Stars also positive things, just a smaller margin of gain than last season. World class here in Atlanta. Phantom Regiment, Spirit of Atlanta, Music City, Jersey Surf. They finish in that order in general effect and visual. 30.7 for Phantom and General Effect, 30.2 for Spirit, 27.5 for Music City, and a 26.9 for Jersey Surf. In visual, 22.55 for Phantom. Spirit's best caption against Phantom is visual. They're only 3.5 tenths back there, where other captions they're a little farther back. Music City's in third at 20.45, and Jersey Surf's at a 19.9. So really, when we thought Jersey Surf could get up to Music City, I don't know necessarily if they're going to do that, at least in the coming days and weeks, but it sure does seem like they're better right now. Both of those scores actually are better than where they were last season. In music, as I said, Spirit's not too strong against Phantom in music. We'll leave it at that. 23.45 for Phantom, a 22.85 for Spirit, 21.05 for Music City, and a 20.2 for Jersey Surf. Overall scores at this one, Spirit's really not gaining anything against Phantom, but at least they finally got their score to go up. 76.7 for Phantom Regiment, 75.25 for Spirit of Atlanta, 69 even for Music City, and 67 even for Jersey Surf. Taking a look at the World Class Leaderboard after last night's shows, here's how everything stands right now. You see next shows for each of these cores. A lot compete tonight, and everybody competes by Saturday. Everybody except one competes by Friday, and that's Crown. So at the final bubble, you've got Mandarins only less than a point into finals, and Spirit's less than a point out. So I think we might actually be seeing Spirit versus Mandarins for finals, and maybe if Phantom falls off or Crossman falls off, we'll see them contending, but who knows, at least at this point right now. In OPED class, not a whole lot of change here, just seeing Louisiana Stars jump south when they're both in action tomorrow night in Knoxville. Looking down the line, the Battalion are now 8th overall, and the Columbians are 11th, and then Heatwave, they also competed last night, they're 15th. Gold Cadets were in action, they're 13th, and River City Rhythm right now is 7th. Tonight, 2 more shows are checked off. The DCI Tour for 2019. First show, ENCORE in Ogden, Utah. All-time Sierra Mountain time, 6:30 p.m. Welcome to National Anthem. 2 open class cores again. Columbians and Battalion, and 6 World class cores again. Seattle Cascades, Genesis Troopers, Pacific Crest, Blue Devils, and Blue Knights. Blue Knights rather are hosting. That's why they get to go on last. Blue Devils, can they keep the upward climb going? Can they get to an 86 tonight? That would be big for them if they could. Blue Knights, them to an 80, that would be huge. The first of that middle group, not necessarily the final bubble cores, but not necessarily championship contenders, to break 80. That would be a good mark for them. Pacific Crest and Troopers, who will come out on top tonight. It's really one of the most intriguing battles of tour so far. Genesis Seattle Cascades, another very intriguing battle, but I'm not sure Seattle Cascades are necessarily as close to Genesis as we thought they might be. Second show tonight, Celebration in Brass in ANKENY, Iowa. This one you can watch live on Flow Marching when Flow Marching revealed their streaming schedule for this season. This was a show that at least I circled as this is a good event. Solid lineup, middle of the week event. Really what everybody always wants is a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday events the week before the premiere event on Saturday or Sunday. So, lineup for this one, 7 o'clock Central Time. Welcome and National Anthem. 7:10, 7:26, we've got the Colt Cadets and then River City Rhythm. Then we start the world-class lineup, and really a pretty solid world-class lineup. You've got the Academy at 7:42, the Mandarins at 7:59, then a 20-minute intermission, followed after intermission by Blue Stars, Santa Clara Vanguard, and the Bluecoats, and then rounding things off with the Colts, Colts hosting, that's why they get to go on last. 9:44 and Encore, 10:04 scores will be announced. So, thank you for watching the podcast today. Just a few things. Make sure to visit my website, drumcorpscentral.weebly.com, for all the latest updates from the DCI and DCA summer tours. Scores, schedules, leaderboards, and more can all be found at my own personal website about all things drum corps. Make sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at DrumCorpsGeek, and subscribe to the Show Day podcast on YouTube, where this podcast and more will be posted as the season goes on. Finally, leave your thoughts in the comment sections, questions, input, comments, etc. All greatly appreciated. Good lineup tonight, and it'll make for some interesting discussion tomorrow night, and also some more events on the calendar tomorrow. So thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day.